Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're talking about the very last episode of Season 3 of The Orville, entitled Future Unknown. Now this episode, it was kind of a much smaller episode than we've really had in store for us for the last few weeks. We've had some really huge episodes leading up to the end of the season, and this episode kind of brought everything down to quite a small and intimate kind of level, I guess, which was, I guess, surprising considering you would normally expect the season finale episode to be a big banging episode, so to speak. We kind of had an A and a B story in this week's episode. We had the wedding of Isaac and Dr. Finn. And we also had the kind of situation going on with the girl Lysella from Sargas 4, who wanted to leave the social media planet to join the Union, or become a member of the Orville crew, or, to get off her planet and, live in that kind of world. There's a lot of elements to this episode which reflected on our current society in terms of, people's fixation on social media and everything that's been going on in the news with politicians and powerful companies, being only interested in kind of profit and nobody's in it for the right reasons. And just it was a little bit of a political episode, kind of drawing a spotlight on that element and the road we're kind of heading down at the moment as perhaps not being the best road, and and we need to look at episodes like this one from the Orville to kind of see how the future should be approached. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Fanatics yet, please go ahead and click on that big red button to stay up to date and current with all the latest sci-fi TV news on YouTube. So for starters, I kind of feel like this episode should have been episode 9. Of the season. I kind of felt like the episode we got last week with the huge, battle between the Kaylon and the Krill and the Moclans and everything, and the dogfights in orbit and the infiltrating the bases, that felt like a big season finale episode to me. That's the sort of big scale, exciting end you want on a season, whereas the season finale that we got was kind of just like a normal, everyday run-of-the-mill episode. The episode, of course, started with the Moclan wedding vow renewal ceremony, which obviously involved, Bortus and Clyden running through the woods virtually nude, chasing each other down in a kind of I think as Gordon put it later in the episode, in a sort of very sexual assaulty kind of way, which was sort of like funny, but also kind of a bit weird at the same time. And this theme of kind of, relationship renewal and coupling and bonding and everything then continued into the focusing on Claire and Isaac's kind of pending marriage. Obviously, there was a little bit of toing and froing there between Claire and Isaac in terms of getting her to say yes. But there were some really nice scenes in this episode, I think. The girls chatting on the couch about the relationship issues and everything, and having had a few glasses of wine, and then Edith comes in and trying to get his advice, but he's not so great on the advice, and Lamar giving Isaac bad advice on playing the field. And then we had the scene a bit later with, Isaac coming in and propositioning Kelly. There's some really nice, funny moments in this episode. So there was definitely more than your average amount of kind of laugh out loud moments in this episode, which I think was good. I think overall, the season's probably pared back a little bit on their laugh out loud humour. But this episode, even though being a smaller episode and obviously having a bit of that morality tale stuff going on, I think it still managed to fit quite a few laugh out loud jokes into it, which was good. And then for the rest of the episode, we kind of ended up cutting back and forth between Kelly putting Lysella through all the ropes about what it's like to be in the Union, and the Bucks night, Isaac and the boys, and and Claire and the girls. Differences in what they're up to. We've got Bortus singing bad Elvis numbers and everything, and everybody falling asleep. It's such a yawn fest. Whereas all the girls are kind of having a Kaylon strip show. So there's some really nice fun moments, I guess, in this episode. I kind of think the episode maybe ran a little bit too long. It was like an hour 21 or something this episode, which is quite long. In the episodes like we had in last week's one, I think it could definitely support that kind of running time. But because we only had the A and the B story, it did kind of feel perhaps we could have trimmed it back a little bit. I think it was probably it was a fraction longer than it needed to be in this episode. So I think even though it had some sweet moments in it, and obviously we're telling a couple of interesting stories, I think probably the scissors could have been applied to a few scenes and moments and everything just to tighten it up a little bit. There were some scenes which showed some really nice scale of grandeur and sort of a wow factor, I guess. Like Kelly showing Lysella the simulator with the asteroid planet and everything, which showed some glorious vistas, the perks you get for living as part of in the Union. Whilst we had funny moments going on with Isaac and Bortus and Gordon vying for who's going to be best man, and Bortus is going to do a rubbish job. He's going to tell really bad speeches, and Gordon's going to do a good job. And Bortus kind of just pulled the rug out from under Gordon and stole the job from him, and how Gordon was more upset about that than the Kaylon invasion of Earth. I think there's some nice moments because there was more humour in this episode than perhaps a few of the past episodes this season. It did kind of feel, I guess, good that we were returning a little bit more so than usual to that comedic storytelling and sense of humour that all of our characters have in our Orville crew. I think it was funny again the way Isaac asked all of the Kaylon population to come to his wedding, and thousands and thousands of Kaylon ships are showing up to be part of the wedding ceremony and everything. They're all kind of worried that the Union's going to respond wrongly to this and think there's an invasion going on, and there's certainly a lot of fun scenes in this episode. We even got a return of the sandwich that had been sent into time 3 months or whatever from that past episode this season. I wondered whether the sandwich was going to come back again. So I guess that's good that they did pay that off. This episode sort of focused on friendships and focused on interpersonal relationships. Between a lot of those nice moments with the wedding planning going on for Claire and Kelly taking Lysella under her wing and debating the merits of giving undeveloped worlds high-tech devices and everything and how that can go wrong. Kelly eventually has to kind of take Lysella into the simulator and show her a world that did get given futuristic technology too soon, and how they basically used it to wipe themselves off the face of their planet. I think Ed's speech was good in the wedding scene. It felt very, very similar to me to Kirk's wedding speech at the beginning of the Balance of Terror episode in Star Trek Original Series.
One of the great privileges that has always been bestowed upon ship's captains.
All shipmasters have had one happy privilege.
Since the days of the ancient seafaring vessels.
Since the days of the first wooden vessels.
Is the honor of uniting two people in matrimony.
That of uniting two people in the bonds of matrimony.
Which again was then homaged the last episode of the first season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds by Pike. So it kind of felt like we've had Kirk do this kind of spiel, we've had Pike do this spiel, and now we've got Mercer doing this kind of same kind of spiel about wooden sailing ships and captain's pleasures of uniting couples in matrimony and all that sort of thing. It's like, hang on, we've kind of done this with Kirk and Pike and now Mercer. It sort of felt like, are we kind of retreading very well-treaded ground at this point in this episode. So that kind of felt very familiar to me. Obviously, Bortus's speech at the end was an absolute train wreck, which we all kind of expected was going to be the case. We kind of knew that Bortus doesn't have what it takes to give a appropriate wedding speech. But it's good that Gordon stepped in and salvaged the moment as well. So, good on you, Gordon. And obviously, one of the biggest surprises of the episode was the return of Alara at the reception. We kind of didn't expect to see her back again, but she popped in to say hi, give her well wishes to Claire and Isaac. So it was good to see Alara back in this show once more, even if it was for just a little brief moment at the end of this episode. I think ending the episode with everybody kind of coming together in the simulator with, Gordon singing another. Gordon likes to get the guitar out and sing another song. We've had Gordon sing a couple of songs this season, so it's something that we've been getting a bit of a recurring theme of. But it was a nice moment, obviously, completely appropriate for a wedding scene, and also, I think it was a nice way to end the episode with Kelly and Ed, holding hands as our ship flies off into space. I think it was as I said, a much smaller episode this week, focusing on much more interpersonal relationships and and a bit of a morality tale involving the people of Sargas 4 and Lysella's storyline, which obviously is a follow up to the previous episode with her in it, and the planet was all wrapped up in social media and everything, where Lamar was going to get killed previously. So we've had almost every episode of the Orville this season have reference to a past episode of the Orville, where almost none of them have been completely self-contained stories. They've all been, follow-ups to previous episodes. So I guess that's a good thing. At least there's continuity in the show, which is something. All in all, I really like this episode. I think it was a great episode of the Orville. Maybe not the best episode this season. I think maybe this episode would have been better suited at about maybe episode 9, and then if we had have swapped episode 9 and 10, and then had that big banger, attack episode that we got last week as our finale, I think that probably would have made a little bit more sense and really ended the season on a huge, big scale episode. But nonetheless, it was a fine episode. But let me know what you thought of this episode. Leave a comment in the comments section, as always, and let me know what your thoughts were, not only on this, this last episode of the season, but also, leave your thoughts on the season as a whole and in terms of what you thought of it. Guys, please leave a super thanks as well if you can. It really helps the channel out. Much appreciated. Leave a like and a comment as well. That helps. And share this video with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And check out memberships, where you can become a membership of the Sci Fanatics YouTube channel, which brings all sorts of perks, lots of different extra videos, behind the scenes stuff that I've done there, extra bits and pieces for everybody. Check it out. And I'll be back soon with my next video. I'll see you guys soon.